Long before streaming wars, before Marvel took over every screen, before the internet turned every fandom into a global army, there was a single television show bold enough to imagine humanity reaching for the stars. It debuted on September 8th, 1966. The ratings were weak. The budget was laughably thin. And yet Star Trek. The original series went on to become one of the most influential works of science fiction ever produced. Behind the transporter beams and the Vulcan salutes, though, sits a story most fans never hear. Here are 20 strange, surprising facts about the birth of Star Trek. When Gene Roddenberry first pitched the show to NBC, William Shatner wasn't part of the plan. The network had already committed to Jeffrey Hunter, an actor who'd once played Jesus in King of Kings. Hunter filmed the original pilot as Captain Christopher Pike, bringing a serious, brooding, philosophical energy that matched Roddenberry's vision perfectly. Then he walked away. Some say his wife discouraged television work. Others say he simply thought the project beneath him. Either way, he was out, and Shatner stepped in, bolder, more theatrical, more magnetic. The show's entire tone shifted the moment he took the bridge. Hunter died just 3 years later at 42, never knowing what the franchise would become. Roddenberry's early notes described Spock with reddish, almost demonic-looking skin, something otherworldly and unsettling. Concept sketches leaned hard into that look. Then reality intervened. Most American households in 1966 still watched in black and white, and read what it read as near black on screen, sending entirely the wrong impression. The team pivoted to a subtle greenish-yellow tint instead. Ironically, once the show aired in color, almost nobody noticed the tint at all. It was the pointed ears that did the heavy lifting. Fans often name the transporter as their favorite piece of Star Trek technology, and it's easy to see why. Disassembling a person at the molecular level and reassembling them elsewhere is a wildly ambitious idea. But it wasn't born from visionary storytelling. It was born from a budget crisis. The original plan had the Enterprise crew reaching planets via shuttlecraft, complete with landing sequences, a look the production simply couldn't afford. The fix was cheap and clever. Filming sparkling dust against a dark background, then reversing the footage. What started as a cost-cutting trick became one of science fiction's most iconic ideas. One physicists still debate the real-world plausibility of today. Most shows get one shot with a network. Star Trek got a rare second chance. The first pilot, The Cage, was submitted in 1965 and rejected outright. Too slow, too cerebral, not enough action, and executives reportedly balked at a female first officer played by Majel Barrett. Rather than scrap the whole project, NBC took the unusual step of commissioning a second pilot. Out went the original crew concept, and came Kirk and Spock with a livelier tone. Roddenberry later repurposed the Cage footage into the 2-part episode The Menagerie, which went on to win a Hugo Award, turning a rejected pilot into award-winning television. As Lieutenant Uhura, Nichelle Nichols held one of the first major, non-subservient roles for a black woman on mainstream American television. After the first season, she planned to leave for Broadway and submitted her resignation. Then, at an NAACP event, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. asked to meet her personally. He told her that Uhura mattered, that for the first time, black children could see someone who looked like them holding a position of authority and dignity among humanity's best. She withdrew her resignation the next day and later described that conversation as one of the defining moments of her life. Today, Nimoy and Spock feel inseparable, but early on Nimoy wasn't sure the role would work, or that he wanted it. He worried the pointed ears and alien features would make Spock read as monstrous rather than sympathetic, and he feared being typecast in a rubber costume. He also had to fight his own instincts as a trained, expressive actor to portray a character built around emotional suppression. What changed things was the audience. Viewers found depth in the stoicism, not menace. Nimoy later wrote 2 memoirs. First, I Am Not Spock, Then I Am Spock, and the shift between those titles says everything about the journey. On November 22, 1968, Kirk and Uhura shared a kiss widely cited as one of the first interracial kisses broadcast on American primetime television. What's less known is how hard the network resisted it. NBC insisted the scene be rewritten, so the kiss appeared coerced by telekinetic aliens rather than freely chosen. giving nervous affiliates a way to explain away as mind control rather than romance. Shatner and Nichols reportedly worked around this by deliberately flubbing the alternate takes where their heads stayed apart, forcing the director to use a take where they actually turned toward each other. The network got its disclaimer. The actors got the real moment. Nichols later recalled hearing from a white Southern viewer who said the scene made him question everything he believed. Star Trek was never a ratings hit. NBC floated cancellation after Season 1, then louder after Season 2. What happened next had almost no precedent. Fans mobilized. Estimates suggest well over 1 million letters flooded NBC across the two campaigns, alongside petitions and protests outside network headquarters, all without the internet or social media. It worked twice, with NBC publicly announcing a third season renewal at a convention. That final season was underfunded and buried in a bad time slot, and the show was canceled for good in 1969, but had produced just enough episodes to enter syndication, which changed everything that came after. The 11-foot filming model of the USS Enterprise was meticulously detailed, but only on the surfaces a camera would actually see. The underside was left rough and largely unpainted. Since every shot was framed from above or the side, and there was no reason to spend money finishing what audiences would never glimpse. The original model now sits in Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum, unfinished underbelly and all, despite being one of the most quoted lines in pop culture, printed on shirts, mugs, and even spoken aboard the International Space Station when James Doohan passed away. The exact phrase never appears in the original series. Kirk says variations like, "Beam us up, Scotty," or "Scotty, beam me up," but never that precise wording. It's part of a broader pattern where cultural memory diverges from the source material, alongside misquotes like, "Play again, Sam from Casablanca," or the altered Star Wars line about fatherhood. With a universe full of exotic civilizations to dress, the wardrobe team leaned heavily on the studio's existing costume archives rather than building everything from scratch. Roman togas became ceremonial alien robes. Old Western costumes were reworked into distant world attire. Leftover B-movie sci-fi suits got fresh paint and new insignia. Sharp-eyed viewers occasionally spotted familiar pieces resurfacing from biblical epics or medieval dramas, repurposed into something interstellar. Starfleet's signature sidearms started life as plastic novelty ray guns already sitting in studio inventory. The prop team modified them with new paint and added components to make them look more advanced, though the cheap plastic and slightly off proportions were noticeable up close. On camera, with the right lighting, they read as futuristic. Decades later, the concept helped inspire real directed energy weapons research funded by the U.S. military, a repainted toy becoming a loose blueprint for actual technology. The trouble with Tribbles remains one of the show's most beloved episodes, but the fuzzy creatures cause real problems off camera. Built from synthetic fur stretched over foam, with small motors inside some props to simulate purring, the Tribbles built up enormous static charges under hot studio lights. They stuck to costumes, furniture, and camera gear, giving crew members repeated small shocks. The team had to develop routines for discharging the props between takes just to get through filming safely. Star Trek didn't invent the expendable character concept, but it gave it a name and visual identity. Red uniforms belonged to engineering and security, the departments most likely to be sent into danger on away missions, and those characters had a statistically notable tendency to die on screen. The show never called attention to the pattern directly. It simply became visual shorthand.